my screen. Just going to wait a few minutes for everybody to join. Caitlin, hello. Did you get bangs or were they already there? Is this new?
I recently recut them. So they're in that special just got cut.
It looks so cute.
Thank you.
Love it.
I've been learning how to cut my own hair, for better or for worse. So
cool. Respect. That is like too much pressure for me.
I just now live in like this state of like constantly slightly awkward haircuts. And I think people generally are fine with it. I'm fine with it.
It's your unique like self-expression. It's awesome. Hey, somebody raise a hand on purpose, or was it an accident?
That was an accident.
Hi, Corey. It's okay. You can raise your hand anytime.
Okay, who else is cutting their hair on their own? Raise your hand. Yes, Kristen, love it. Nice to see some familiar names and faces.
Yeah, welcome back. Welcome. So I think we can dive in and people will probably continue to filter in, but that's fine. So today we're talking about how to be a stronger writer at any level. Caitlin, did you have any initial thoughts you wanted to share on this? Caitlin and I worked together on this. Caitlin is like, since she's been such a great presence as a TA, I feel like, yeah, she's like a really great kind of co-host for this particular workshop.
Yeah, nothing too big. We have like a special guest in a way that you guys might not expect, so stick around. And I mostly was thinking about everyone's assignments as I was crafting this, like some of the feedback I've given over the past month or two sometimes does ladder up into a few of these points. So it was really cool to see how it's like you guys are getting better and that's helping me create this live workshop in the process. So very symbiotic.
Yeah, totally. It's like we see patterns after so long of working with every cohort of students and seeing how everyone coming here into this course from different levels, different backgrounds, like the kind of common threads that we all can benefit from, like revisiting from time to time, you know, and just general tips and tricks. And yeah, we're going to do a live kind of editing exercise too, to kind of show how to evolve your copy from like a not so great first draft to a really, really great final draft. So there's going to be some more improv. Like for some reason, we keep doing improv in these workshops, and why? It's like I'm in my Conan O'Brien era. I knew it was going to happen. It's fine. So throw a heart emoji up if you also love Conan. I grew up on Conan. So big love to Conan. He's still out there being, watch Conan O'Brien on that YouTube show called Hot Ones, where he eats hot wings while being interviewed. It's the funniest thing I've seen in a minute. So here we go. Agenda. The welcome. We've just done it. I haven't watched his new travel show yet on Max, but thank you, Shirley. I will definitely be watching that after this. Free association exercise, that will be coming up next. Chiseling with our special guest, ChatGPT. Every copywriter's nightmare is gonna show us just how bad a copywriter it can be, actually. So you'll have a lot of your potential anxieties over AI quickly dispelled, because it can't do our job very well yet. Don't worry. Ways to strengthen your writing, of course, and then a little time for questions at the end. So What are the telltale signs of good writing to you? Share in the chat. List any favorite writers or like any qualities, what you look for in a piece of writing, what feeling good writing evokes for you. Like maybe just take a minute to think about that and kind of drop it in the chat. That would be cool. I feel I was reading this morning. I had a one of those little moments of inspiration in the park, like that sends me down a research rabbit hole of where does our like good taste come from, you know, as writers or aesthetes, you know, like people who have aesthetic taste of any kind. What does it mean to, how do we develop good taste? And it's like through I started reading a lot about good taste. And I think that's really important here. Becoming a stronger writer, you really have to develop taste. And that means reading a lot, of course, and then also getting lots of inspiration outside of literature or journalism or copywriting or any other form of writing, you know, just learning a lot about culture, history, like different communities than your own, like just expanding your worldview in every way. Yeah, comedy, like for example, to go back to Conan, like Conan's just on my mind for some reason, but he's a brilliant writer. First and foremost, he was a writer on The Simpsons and then SNL. Like, so great, like things that really resonate with people come from having like a sense of humor, a sense of taste. And I think all of those things are so important to what makes good writing. So it's not necessarily that you're good technically at the skill of writing. It doesn't mean necessarily that you understand the ins and outs of grammar. It's more about your personality. It's more about your world of references in your mind that you're drawing from. So just continuing to feed that, to feed your inner artist is, I think, the best way to become a good writer above all. What do you think, Caitlin?
Yeah, I think +1 to all of those pieces. I always think about this from like a copywriting specific lens, which is where like you're on the subway and you see an ad and you're like, or, you know, I take a lot of pictures of like random packaging. So for me, I think about the idea that like something as simple as like this morning, I was like putting cheese on something, you know, like shredded cheese. And for some reason, the copy on the back said, "Our cheese has won awards." And that just tickled me to no end. Like I can't stop thinking about
specific awards.
no specific awards. It just has won awards. And, you know, that's one of those things where you can make a case for it being good or bad, but I was so delighted that I love it, you know? And you imagine the copywriter having a little bit of fun with that, like the way that someone would on like a Myers soap or a Dr. Bronner's, you know, like I think about moments like that where it's just something as simple as our cheese has won awards gets you thinking about that brand in the future for no reason. I mean, I think that to me is good writing. It's sort of like implaceable.
Yeah, totally. I love that. Okay. Thanks everyone for dropping your thoughts in the chat. Maybe we should read a couple. Let me see. Tone. Definitely a tone, all caps, Kristen says, which I think I know what you mean. Like a tone that you like notice, you know. Yeah, relatable tone, writing that shows personality, clear, concise, direct. Yep. It sticks something, yeah, like Caitlin says, something that sticks with you. Kari, intuitive and resonant, totally. Something that just kind of, you read it and it just kind of clicks and you're like, yeah, I totally get what they mean. And you don't exactly even know how to put your finger on why, but you're just like, that lands with me. Musicality, a feeling of immersion, really good. Shows detail and makes you understand through tone. Clever uses that hit relatable references, emotionally evocative. Saw an ad on the CTA. What is the CTA? The call to action? That's usually CTA so I'm confused. That said, you just blew 180K on a don't drink and drive, and that stuck with me. Wow. Chicago Transit. Sorry, never been to Chicago. Wow, yeah. Okay, that's, you know what, good copywriting happens in the most unlikely places sometimes. I've seen similar don't drink and drive type of clever, quippy things when I was visiting my family in Maine. Like these like flashing signs on the road that it's always that kind of eye roll, like, oh, that's so clever, haha, it gets your attention. And it's like cops copywriting, cop e-writing, putting the cop in copywriting.
No.
Sorry. So yeah, I don't know. It's
Canceled.
am I canceled now? I got a red cancel button. I love a good pun. Moving on very quickly, chiseling with ChatGPT. So here we go. Give a warm welcome to our new student, Chat. We gave Chat the homepage hero copywriting assignment from your workbook. This would be, I guess, in section 2 of the course. So if you haven't gotten here yet, spoiler alert, this is one of the copy briefs that you're going to work on. So we gave the exact same copy brief assignment from the course to ChatGPT, as you will see on the screen before you. Copy pasta, delicious. Write the homepage hero copy for a brand that is a paid subscription-based app for mental health and creativity, aka Imaginary. The app primes your mind for more imaginative living and heightened creativity through daily prompts, mental exercises, and games. Chat was definitely like a C student, I would say. What do you think, Caitlin, in this exercise? I feel like
I think Chat just needs like chiseling and support and like, a friend. But there's some interesting nuggets, okay? And I think that's the big takeaway, right? It's like nothing is 100% bad. There's always kind of something sparkling in the midst.
True, that is true. We need to like preface all of this with like every first draft can like be the source of really good growth and potential. And it's important to not be too like judgmental or critical in a mean way, and to be more like fun about it and lighthearted about it. And you can kind of, when it's like something's not working, you can laugh at it. You can be like, oh, that wasn't very good. Let me keep trying, and just try to approach it with an abundance mindset, and not a scarcity mindset. Because if you're like, oh, I don't have enough ideas available, there aren't enough good ideas available that I could write, and so I'm stuck with these first ideas and they're not good, that means I'm not good. That's only like a vicious cycle that's going to keep you from growing. So I think it's important to write everything, even if you're like, I don't think it's very good, and just know that there's a bajillion other things you can write, and don't be too attached to like to things being good or bad at the beginning, right? And here's how we do it. So here we go. ChatGPT's headline options: ignite your creativity, elevate your life. I think that's a mixed metaphor, an example of mixed metaphor. Okay. Daily fuel for your creative fire. This sounds like reminds me of like a 1980s song that would be in one of those movies with oh God, the redhead. I'm blanking on her name right now. St. Elmo's Fire. I don't know. That song is playing in my head.
Are you talking about Kate Bush? Is that Molly Ringwald? Oh,
Ringwald, yes.
Look at all of the Molly Ringwalds popping up.
Something like the director of all of her teenage 80s films. I feel like this is the tagline for one of his scripts or something. Unleash your inner artist, comma, every day. That comma in there, for some reason, makes me angry. That when people put a comma in that way in a sentence, I'm like, it makes me so angry. I can't explain it. But Chat, I'm going to try not to be angry at you, because I know you're just not even human. So you're just like a million humans in a trench coat. Um, transform your daily routine into a playground for creativity. The playground metaphor, we've seen that before. It's a little bit on the nose, you know. It's not wrong. It's just a little bit obvious on the nose. Like, how could we be a little bit more creative? I think would be my build. Where mental wellness and creativity converge for extraordinary living. Just, you know, I read it like that because that's how it reads. That's how I read it in my head, is in a funny voice. Unlock the door to a world of imagination through daily engagement. This one is just not good. I think we can just objectively say not a good sentence. Why though? Caitlin, why is this so bad?
Yeah, well, if anybody also has any first impressions on any of these alts, share in the chat.
Please.
If there's any of them that you like, because I was actually telling Tasha, I was like, some of these are not bad. Like they could be better. Like unleash your inner artist every day is not bad. A lot of overused language. That's a very good point. But my first impressions were kind of similar, right? Where it's lacking in specificity. It doesn't make me feel. The one that makes me the closest to feeling something is the sub headline copy number 1, because it's not over promising me anything the way that sub headline number 2 is. Yeah. And it also is more specific than through daily engagement, which sounds like app language. Like,
yeah, it's not human. No one, like Kristen said in the chat, nobody talks that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think, yeah, some of these, I think why I daily fuel for your creative fire and, you know, those types of things, like why I laugh and mock them and why they feel corny is because it's like cliche. It's metaphors that we've all seen a million times elsewhere before. And our subconscious has like knows that we've seen the same thing so many times. And it gets to a critical point, like a critical like saturation point. When you have seen something reused in so many different ways, so many times, where it no longer registers as clever or original. And that's where something goes from like being good or neutral taste to being kind of like corny or bad taste. I think it's just where it's like, oh man, okay, I've like that's someone was kind of phoning it in, not trying that hard to be original with that one. I think that's more where as a reader or as the audience for an ad, for example, why do some ads on Instagram, why is it that some content on Instagram makes you stop and be like, oh, I kind of want to read more about that? And why most of the rest of it, you're just like, that's junk, that's junk, that's junk. And you just keep scrolling, right? Like try to think critically about actually, why do I just want to get past these ads as quick as possible? But then certain ones, I'm like, ooh, like what is that? And I think that's a really good exercise to become a stronger writer, is to try to investigate your personal taste and your personal reactions to things. And that kind of trains you maybe to trust your gut as a writer, trust your kind of your taste or your intuition about things like that. Because imagine like we consume so much content, so many ads, like more than any other generation before us, literally, because we have the internet. Because I'm hearing an echo of myself. Can somebody please mute? Sorry. Anyway, so even though we're constantly bombarded by content, we are like unconsciously, no worries, we are unconsciously digesting all of this. We are like kind of remembering all of these things that we're coming into contact with. And so I think we're consuming so much that we can kind of trust that our gut is telling us yes or no to things, because we've absorbed so much information over time that is guiding us, you know. I think that's one way to kind of look at how to kind of critique your own writing, you know. Anyway, bit of a rant, but we
Yeah.
have these things under Chiseling chat here, these pointers. Caitlin, do you want to
Yeah, I
take it
can
away?
build on a few of these. I specifically want to call out the first note, which is that the homepage hero isn't the same as a brand tagline. And then even ChatGPT does this in these 3 examples, where these feel a little bit more like taglines than they do a homepage hero headline. And the difference is slight, but knowing what I know about copywriting and having done like so many homepage hero projects over the course of my career is the homepage hero isn't really always your moment to be the most clever, but it is maybe the only moment you have to explain what you do and why you do it. And so ChatGPT is sort of doing this in their example. But for example, daily fuel for your creative fire. That doesn't quite tell me what I'm looking at, or what I am supposed to kind of take away. What could that fuel even be? Is it actual fuel? Is it metaphorical fuel? We're sort of in that, in between stage where we don't know what it is, but we're being given a metaphor. Wait, I want to cackle.
That was funny.
Yeah. So I'll share in the chat like an example of a homepage hero that I have probably directed everyone to at one point, and you're probably so sick of seeing it. But Open, the kind of meditation and breathwork app, does this really well, where their headline is based in a feeling and based in the user and what they're going to experience by downloading the app. And their subheadline, Tasha, sometimes Tasha and I have the same thing happening in our brain at the same time.
Yeah, I was just going to share that too.
Yeah. But then the subheadline is a sentence or so that really breaks down the benefit, right? And you kind of immediately understand what it is that you as the user are going to get out of like downloading the app, or the feeling that you're going to walk away with. And I think that to me is what makes an effective homepage hero. Whereas I actually think these headline options could work. They're not, again, the most, they are kind of showing and not telling, or I always mess that up. It's show, don't tell. Yeah. So they're kind of telling us.
They're telling, not showing.
Yeah. Exactly. The join mental detox. I just got that email the other day and opened it immediately because once you kind of, something about the way that they present information just sort of lands for me. So that's another thing that I recommend, is having that short list of brands that anytime they send you an email, you open it. Anytime you hit their Instagram page, you stay. Like things like that. If you can put together your copy Rolodex of brands you admire, you'll come back to that again and again. Like I can't tell you how many times that example from Open sticks in my head when I'm reviewing you guys' work or when I'm reviewing my own work. So yeah, that's my main build. I think ChatGPT, we can give them a pass at this current moment and move on to their version 2. But a lot of these are small things, right? Like the mixed metaphor, or using a phrase that sounds a little like robotic, or converge to me felt very like, action movie somehow, like 2 paths converged. And then, Jason Statham appeared. I don't know. So it's little things like that, that if you kind of, as you do version 2 of your work, you're able to kind of figure out what those are for you. Yeah. Anyway, so those are my thoughts.
Let's see. We want to now take a moment to chisel their chat. Sorry, wait, how do I get out of presentation mode? So, oh wait, technical difficulties. How do I get out of like, there we go. Okay. Wait. Okay.
Yeah, so we don't have to do we kind of in real time chiseled a little bit.
Okay, yeah, let's look at their this is ChatGPT's V2, and then we can maybe chisel that next.
Yeah, together. Okay, that
makes more sense. Okay. Thanks for bearing with us. So we asked ChatGPT to do a new version. I think Caitlin gave chat some really actionable feedback. And then it got back to work, and 2 seconds later it gave us this. So let's review elevate your creative essence daily. I just don't think that's very clear language to me. I don't really understand what that means. Like elevate and essence are not like a verb and a noun that makes sense to me. You know what I mean? Like I don't think you can elevate an essence. Well, it's just, yeah, it's a little bit, yeah, it's unclear what the product is, so Sophia said, which is totally true. I think that's such a big problem with headlines. And I would even say, like, with, say, we're using open as an example of a good one, but it's all about the context too, because think about it. If on the open homepage, if you weren't seeing the video of people meditating and doing yoga, would that headline tell you actually what the product is or what's happening? No, it wouldn't. So in a way, even though we love their vibe, the copy only works because we're seeing yoga teachers and meditating people. So we have to also really take that into account, that sometimes our inspiration that we're talking about is very, very context heavy, how it works. So what you have to do as a copywriter is try to make it work without depending on a visual reference to complete the, you know, the context. So I think that's kind of important to note, since we were just talking about it, because we do want the hero headline to really clearly give you a sense of what it is, what the product or the brand, the offering, whatever it is that it's about. I think that's really, really critical. That was something that as the copywriter, as the copy director at the agency Red Antler, my boss, Liz, who was like the strategy director for the whole like agency, she was constantly having me in practice, like on a project, she would have me go over the headline over and over and over and over and over until we got it right. And she was like always insisting, don't sacrifice clarity for cleverness. Don't sacrifice clarity for style. And it was like a grind sometimes. And a lot of my darlings had to be killed, you know, to use a common kind of writing idiom. But I think I became a better copywriter as a result of that. And it really helped me understand the importance of like a user landing on a page and understanding what the page is about in order to prevent the user from bouncing and not converting. So I think it's really important to underscore those things. And then, of course, as Caitlin noted, the words like elevate and unleash, they are so overused. I think there's also like, I think there's like a list that we've maybe shared in the Discord somewhere, or a list that I found of so that someone posted on social media that was like, if your copy includes any of these words, just delete it, just cut it out, because these are just so annoying to see now. It's like certain words get overused so much that it basically sounds like ChatGPT now, especially in the tech space. There are certain verbs that are probably a good do not use like list. And elevate and unleash, I think, are some of them. So mixed metaphor, again, like you're, you know, too many, sometimes like leaning too heavily on metaphors in your copy kind of makes it feel like, again, like a lack of clarity and a lack of like just being able to just say what it is. You know, I think like there's nothing wrong with just upfront kind of saying what it is in a clear way instead of using a metaphor to illustrate it. It might actually be harder to write something really simple and clear and straightforward sometimes without leaning on a crutch like a metaphor. So I think it's a really good way of training your writing muscles to not lean and depend on tricks like that. Consider something like similes and metaphors as crutches. I think that's a good way in copywriting to look at it. And in any kind of writing, I think it's like, yeah, they're nice in moderation, you know. And that's something that the more you work, you'll maybe get more of it. The more you read and the more you work, you'll get more of a sense for why some work and some don't, and context dependent, like when they do work. And then again, false promises, pinnacle of mental wellness. No, that's unrealistic. That is overpromising, and it makes your copy sound unbelievable or less credible if you're making grandiose statements like that. I feel like if you can't actually in that moment back up a big claim, then just don't make that big of a claim with such hyperbolic language. I think it should be evident if you're going to claim that, or it should be something like, backed by science to, or proven by in studies to have this result, then sure, maybe then that could be more credible. But even then, like, people will bounce if they don't believe you, because there's so much like scammy marketing out there, and people just have a sense they have a good kind of bullshit detector, by now, with things like that. So it kind of can set off someone's like, do not trust this brand response if they see for promising language. Caitlin, what do you think?
I agree. And I think that at some point too, there's this idea of like, they're going to see your brand at all of these different internet touch points. And ultimately, every single one of those touch points is an opportunity for them to leave a hate comment, leave a bad review, interact with your brand in a way that's like poor or less than ideal. And so I think sometimes when I see these kind of false promises made, I'm like, oh no, like they're walking themselves into like a land of internet hatred, Even like at one point in doing research for the course, I found this one social ad by a brand that was like, you're doom scrolling again, stop that. And people in the comments ate it up. They were like, don't tell me what to do. And so it is interesting to have to like, that's another lens to think about your copywriting through, is like, is this going to invite hate on my brand? That's not my main consideration when I'm writing, but I think like false promises or sort of like big statements, like, this is going to optimize every facet of your entire existence. Someone is going to call you out on it. We just live in that kind of culture now where I think we all just want honesty. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of like, I think what I liked about Chat's version 2 was that I had asked them to, experiment with a slightly more elevated tone of voice, right? Did some of their choices not make sense? Yes.
Number 2 literally does not make any sense.
Luxuriate and inspired living unleashed. Yeah.
Why did they add unleashed at the end? The unleashed part does not it doesn't.
It kind of reminds me of a bad tattoo. Like, one of the ones where it's like it was supposed to be a full sentence, but then it wasn't. Or like, yeah. So we have to give Chat credit here because it did listen to me.
It used the word elevate twice.
Yeah, and an opulent journey, not like a regular journey. It's opulent.
A journey how opulent can a journey be?
Okay, that is not what we're saying.
Not add unleashed to anything unless it's like, do not walk your dog unleashed.
Right. Yeah, if you're copywriting for a dog leash brand, then I don't even think you should say unleashed, because that dog needs to be on its leash, at least in New York City. So I don't know. Anyone else get any first impressions or like, haha, ChatGPT? We can be a hater. We can be a hater for this particular 5-minute stretch.
It's kind of cathartic because we're all afraid of ChatGPT, like, or people talk about about that. Aren't you afraid of ChatGPT taking your job? I'm like, no, have you seen what they do? Like, I'm not remotely afraid.
Luxuriate and inspired living unleashed really gives me so much job security, guys. Like, I'm going to bed, I'm resting easy tonight. Like,
Oh God, yeah, I can't. Or honestly, what if you saw that ad, like a really, how they have like kind of parody like 80s and 90s like kind of meme designs that you can see like on Instagram, whatever, where it's like very much like Lisa Frank, like sparkly, I feel like if I saw this tagline in that design context, again, context dependent, right? I would think it's hilarious and I would click on it. I'd be like, ooh, what is this? But no, I don't think it's very serious. If it makes you laugh, it might not be the right choice for this particular brand. Experience the pinnacle of mental wellness. Sophia says, I was going to say the hyperbolic context could be funny for like a sandwich or something benign. Yes, I agree. But this is like trying to be serious and be like, look, this is all about how using your imagination can benefit your mental health. That's kind of like an important message, and that's really beneficial to people. And none of this copy is communicating any of that message. Any of the features or benefits, or even the fact that it's an app, is missing from the headline options. So
reveal your alchemy drives me absolutely bananas, though. I'm like, it means nothing. Like, even
word salad.
And I'm like, alchemy doesn't make sense here. Like, how can you reveal something? I mean, I guess, yes, the alchemical process is revealing something, but don't even get me started, guys. I will spend
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
But I also, good call out, Sophia, on indulge in daily muse, which is actually, I love. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that's a good example of like, yes, daily muse could work, right? Like, depending on the brand, depending on how you're using it, you could lean into the idea of the muse. But it's good to take it one step further, like maybe even 2 steps further, and see if you can find something unexpected about your inner muse, or how that feels.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get me started on the Orabella thing, guys. I will really go off.
I don't even know what that is. I feel really out of touch right now.
I'll send it to you, Tasha.
Okay, someone explain.
That said, if Bella Hadid wants to hire me, call me. Like,
oh yeah,
I can fix this right up.
That's a Hadid thing? You'd think that they can, of all people, they can afford a copywriter.
I think they probably have spent a lot of money on a copywriter is the thing. It's just like,
it sounds like Bella Hadid wrote that.
Whatever the strategy is, though, it is working. And that kind of infuriates me a little bit, because every day I'll like go and check the Instagram and be like, okay, so is it fragrances? Is it like crystals? Is it products? Yeah.
I think it's only because it's associated with this like celebrity for the sake of being a celebrity I think that's the only strategy they need. The rest of us have to merit and earn by being good, unfortunately. So we can't all be her. But hey, no shade. She's a lucky girl. So here we go. Let's chisel Chad's copy. Like, how can we redeem some of this? How about which one should we work on, Caitlin? Choose one.
Oh man.
Indulge in daily muse, elevate create.
It just makes no sense. I feel like the luxuriate is actually too hard to chisel, because you can't really take any of it and repurpose it. So yeah, I think number 3 makes the most sense.
Or what about the first one? Does that one make the most sense?
Let's try it. If we have time, we could do more than one, but we'll see. All right, Jordan's on board with the first one. Great. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I don't know if we lost Tasha. Oh, Tasha, you're muted.
Sorry, I closed the wrong tab by accident. I'm back. Okay, so then other sub headline copy option. Which sub headline copy option should we chisel? Curated prompts and mental exercises for an opulent journey.
Yeah, because I think that one at least includes mention of the features, whereas the others don't at all.
Yeah.
So maybe we take from that one.
Can you read it out loud for me? So I can't.
Oh yeah. Did you mean to stop sharing, Tasha?
Oh. It's because I closed the tab. Sorry.
No worries. Just double checking.
Lol. Technical difficulty. Okay. Curated prompts and mental exercises for
opulent living or something. I don't know.
An opulent journey.
Opulent journey. Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else get that newsletter called Opulent Tips?
No.
Well, it's kind of like an insidery, invite-only newsletter by Rachel Tashton, who's a fashion journalist I've worked with in the past, and it's hilarious. You can Google it and try to get on her list. It's very funny if you like fashion. She's just a great writer, a great humorist, and a great writer to follow. She's a fashion editor, I think, at GQ now. But yeah, her newsletter is called Opulent Tips, and it's like really, it's a hilarious, clever newsletter. Anywho, okay. So what is the objective of this copy that we're going to work towards by chiseling? We want to convey what the product is, what the benefit of the product is, and what the kind of vibe of the brand is, right? Anything else, Caitlin?
No, I think that's pretty much all we could fit in. Sometimes I either take two tracks. It's either that first track where we kind of like lead with the product, or the second track is to lead with the feeling of using the product. And I think this one makes more sense, the first option for this particular exercise.
Okay, actually, let me just re-zhuzh my tabs here so I can like see y'all at the same time as I'm chiseling. Okay. Live copywriting. Here we go.
Let's see how we do. This is hard, guys. This is not easy.
Got to stretch first. Okay, ready. This is my creative process. I got to tie my hair back. I got to stretch. Got to do a breathing exercise, channel my inner Conan, and let's go. Elevate. Okay. I want to say I want to flip this structure around. I want to try that. I want to strike out elevate. I think daily, nodding to daily, we could keep potentially.
Yeah.
I think we need to rename what the outcome is. If your creative essence is the desired outcome, that you want that this product optimizes, the word essence needs to change. I think maybe a first stab of towards improvement could be like activate or reconnect with something like that, with your creative essence every day or daily. That's better. I think that's already an improvement. That makes more sense. What about reveal your alchemy? Oh, I mean, I think that one's already taken. Otherwise, I would. It's so good.
It's so good. It's trademarked.
Okay. So there's one improvement already is active, get rid of elevate, make it something that's actually more like tangible that you can feel. Creative essence, it's your creative practice, right? Or your creative, like the part of yourself that's creative, your creative spark, your creative, like what are some other things that kind of evoke the feeling of your creative essence, without using that word essence. Maybe drop it in the chat if you have any ideas. So there's one, your creative mind, your creativity. Yeah. Activate your creativity. Yeah. Just simplifying. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, I think one of the things that I used in the course materials as an example is like tap into your creativity. You know, the tap in, because it's a verb, like you're tapping the screen, so it kind of like tangibly connects to the action you're taking. Practices, like with a proven daily practice, or like um um connect with your creativity daily, something like that, maybe. um
Yeah, I like something that's even like a little bit casual, like get to know your creative side every day, or like a
Love
little
that.
more, you know, like Sophia kind of
Or get in
that's her
touch with
creative
your
side.
creative
Yeah. And
roots.
it feels a little bit less
Side.
like woo-woo, right? Whereas essence and spirit, they sort of have these loaded connotations that
Yeah, whereas it's a science-backed product, so we don't, it's totally off brand to use words like that evoke spirituality, a la the artist's way. Um, not there's anything wrong with that. It's just not this brand, you know.
yeah.
So yeah, cool. So, and then what about any other ideas for this that kind of say like daily like a daily the creative process for your daily practice, or something maybe more direct even. um a daily practice to become more creative or more imaginative. Mm. A daily practice for your creative process. Give your mind a creative boost. Awaken your creative mind. I'm reading these from the chat. Get creative inspiration daily. Yeah, cool. Okay. Cultivate your creative, yeah, neural pathways. Cassandra, that's awesome. Cultivate your creative connections. Yes. Love that. A daily dose of creativity. Yeah, we love the artist's way for sure. Read everyone in the chat. I think what my but I did notice as I was rereading it recently, and I was like, it's really heavy on God and spirituality. And for some people that part doesn't resonate, like myself included, it doesn't. Like, so I kind of lean more towards like the agnostic, like approach of like, I like when things can be explained and proven, but I also like some spirituality. I like a mix of both. So that's why I enjoy like these exercises, because it's like we're so familiar with talking about creativity from that more woo-woo spiritual thing, but there is such like a concrete, tangible, actionable thing that's not so mysterious about being creative. Like there are things that just work that you can do, that you can control. And having some kind of ownership and control over it gives us more agency. And instead of leaving it up to the fates, leaving it up to the muses, it's like, no, I'm creative, and I can own it. I think that's pretty powerful too. Um, so, but I love the morning pages and stuff. Getting back to this, I think I lost my tab. Oh, wait. Yeah. Let me get back to the tab. There we go.
Tasha, a quick check. We have 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So what
do we want
could
to do a headline and then move on, or no?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think? Curated prompts and mental exercises for so opulent journey into creativity. I think we could just chisel this part. Maybe we can leave that first part and just focus on what's not working about this. Anyone have any thoughts? Like for like maybe curated prompts and mental exercises for a, I like what Olivia said, for a daily dose of creativity. I like that one a lot actually for this. Daily practices, prompts, and games to train your brain to be more creative, for example. And do you guys kind of see how this is more like clear, and like the language and the structure are kind of more straightforward and explain it better as far as like giving you a real sense for what the product is? Is this tracking? Do you have any thoughts, Caitlin?
No, I think like I love that you just had to chisel the second half and you were able to keep the first half the same. Like I think that spirit is really important because sometimes you'll have a really good first half, right? And then you'll start overthinking it as you get later into your tagline or your headline.
Yeah.
But a daily dose of creativity is very measured, specific. You know exactly kind of what you're getting. Whereas, yeah, opulent journey into creativity could have meant anything. It felt very Willy Wonka.
Yeah, totally.
Isn't the brand.
No. Thanks, Olivia, for that that nice tagline.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a word salad, as Jordan says. It is hilarious. Like to actually imagine a word salad. I want like an illustrator to like make one. So here we go. We want to go over writing best practices and tips for becoming a better writer. Back into slideshow mode.
And we could, Jennifer, good idea. We could move through these, Tasha, kind of quickly to leave room for Q&A. For me, when we were making these slides, these are sort of like, it's a lens to apply your copy through. So for example, if you wanted to pull this up and go through each principle and sort of think about your writing, and if it meets that bill, that's kind of how I would use these best practices personally. And some of these are like fairly straightforward, like show, don't tell, avoid passive voice whenever you can. It almost never works. And then obviously adverbs and metaphors can really actually weaken the spirit of what you're trying to write. So that's kind of like, again, lens to apply your writing through, more than it is like, this is not always hard and fast. Sometimes you're going to come up with a really good metaphor, and that is something you should go for, right? But in general, if you're seeing your first draft have any of these or not live up to any of these kind of principles, you may want to chisel it before you submit it to a client, or even submit it for review here, just so that you can feel a little bit more like, okay, yes, I took a step back. I'm going to analyze it for these different principles. Yes, passive voice. That actually.
I'm glad you asked. What is passive voice? We got a slide for that.
Yeah. We asked our friend Chat.
Let's skip ahead.
Yeah.
A little bit to answer this question. Here's an example of passive voice. An app has been made, that's passive voice, has been made to help folks dive into their imagination by doing exercises and using psychology tricks. Does that make sense? Where instead of saying, we made an app, or there's an app that does this, it's saying in kind of the past tense, an app has been made. And that just loses all of its oomph. It loses all of its evocativeness. So you get led, you get led through, that is passive voice too. All kinds of activities meant to get your creative juices flowing. They use cool techniques from psychology to help you see things from different angles and get past mental blocks. Let me see, like trying to see if there's any other glaring examples. Do you see any, Caitlin?
No, I asked ChatGPT, I was like, make me writing like write this entirely in passive voice. So
They
it's
didn't
funny.
even do it
They
right.
didn't even do it. Yeah. But yeah, I think those first two are really, really good examples actually, because you'll
Yeah.
kind of know passive voice when you see it, because it lengthens your copy by about 4 to 5 words every single time.
Yeah, it just makes your copy less concise.
Yeah.
It adds extra words that don't need to be there. And it kind of, like, for me, passive voice, the experience of reading it is like a slog. It's like, it slows down what should be like a quick, like, snap of the finger type of scannable experience to understand the meaning of it. It's like I have to go through all of these words that feel like unnecessary fluff and filler just to get the meaning. It's like, no, just like, get to the point. So here we go. Back to intermediate level tips. Read outside your comfort zone and take notes. Read something like Harper's Magazine or The New Yorker and just really dive into, any books, like any other examples of just like really impressive high level, high skilled writers out there that you can find. Read as much as possible and really notice the sentence structure, the craft, all the things that you're like, oh, that's really interesting, or oh, that's a really challenging paragraph for me. I think I have to reread this paragraph like 20 times to fully understand it. Those are the parts where it's like stretching a muscle that you're like, ooh, I didn't even know I had that muscle. It's like you have to really like go over it and like massage it into your brain. I think that's a really good way to become a stronger writer. And then what a lot of writers have done, like Joan Didion as one example that came to mind, is when you find a sentence that's really good, maybe it has a really interesting, skillful structure or something else about it that you just love the music of the sentence, but you don't know why or how it works or how they did it, literally copy it down by hand until you can kind of reverse engineer, like in your mind, like, oh, this is how that sentence works. Literally copying it down and doing it by hand is much better than typing it. Just try it out. It's a nice exercise that's quite accessible. When rereading your own work, ask yourself questions like, is this like a really obvious choice of phrase? Have I seen this somewhere before? I think we mentioned that earlier. I love that Caitlin came up with this line, that's good writing often comes in through a cracked window, not an open door. I like that. What do you mean? Can you expand on that for a second, Caitlin?
Yeah, so for me, sometimes the first entry point I have to an idea is not always the most interesting. Or something about it will feel more obvious, and then I just sort of have to basically move my way around the room of the idea. And that's sort of vague. But occasionally you'll sort of get hit with this idea that it isn't as big or as flashy as the original one, which I would call the open door. But it's like, it's a cracked window. You have to fight for it. You have to kind of work your way in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes that is obviously, that piece of writing is a metaphor. And sometimes it's a metaphor that you're trying to come up with, or it's like a particular type of concept that maybe it doesn't land yet, but you just need to like take a break from it and come back to it. So that's kind of what I mean, is that maybe the first idea isn't always the best one, and kind of coming at it from a different angle really helps.
Yeah, I think it does feel like sometimes the more nuanced and interesting ideas, it's like, yeah, there's a little bit of a breeze coming through that cracked window and you can feel it, it's there, but you have to kind of like slowly work. Maybe the window's kind of old and stuck and you have to kind of jiggle it to like let it flow, to let the air flow, the fresh air flow in. That's kind of my interpretation of how in practice it actually kind of feels. But then once you have to focus some more attention and effort on it, whereas the open door is like, it comes really easily and therefore the effortlessness means it's actually not that valuable, so this is a great tip. Make it shorter, make it more appealing. How could it apply to more people? Questions to ask yourself. I could stay for an extra couple minutes if anyone has questions. Sorry that we're at time because we've been having way too much fun as usual. But if anyone has to hop right now, Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that this was helpful. And we can share, I think in the resources, you'll see the recording of this, as well as you might be able to access the actual doc if you want to go back and reread any of these tips. But yeah, feel free to raise your hand or chime in or drop in the chat if you have any questions, and I will hang around as long as you guys would like. Anything?
I had one question. About like what do the headline and subheadline, like how do they work together? Is the subheadline supposed to inform the main headline of
Yeah.
like,
Totally. Yeah, good question. I think that often the subheadline is paying off the idea that the headline introduces. So maybe the headline is introducing a thought or an idea, and the subheadline elaborates with a little bit more detail. So if we go back to the example that we have been talking about, I'm going to share my screen. Open. It said the headline, and I guess in this case would be "Become Alive." And honestly, that's by itself not a great example of a headline because it doesn't actually talk about what it doesn't tell you this is an app in which you can get meditations and yoga classes and Pilates classes and all of that stuff. But their subheadline is "Enter a place to come to your senses. Meditation, music, breathwork, and movement awaken body and mind to bring you to the present moment." That's a pretty good subheadline. That tells you what it is. And then it says app and studio because they have both an app and a physical like yoga studio where you can go to classes in person. So it's beautiful, this image of like become alive, and you're seeing it in the context of these people like executing the product. You're seeing a demo of the courses and stuff that the product includes. So it works, I guess, that the benefit that you're getting from this app is to become alive, to like feel more alive, basically, through their practices. So does that kind of make sense, where the subheadline is paying off what the headline kind of offers?
Yeah, so like giving more context to like what the headline's trying to say.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think a good flag here is that like not every brand is going to be able to pull this off. Like if you are Open is now an established brand that has funding of, millions and millions of dollars, right? They're also much more well known. If you're working with a small business who like they have no clue what they're doing really, or like they're just getting started, you're really going to want to make sure that that copy is in service of explaining what they do before you're able to get to this point of like, even I would consider this clever, branded, very like beautiful. So I think there's also baby steps in terms of the kinds of clients that you work with. At least that's been my experience in this industry. So something to keep in mind as you float those kinds of options, or you kind of flex those muscles of really branded, elevated, almost more abstract copy, is that that's not going to be right for every client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And I still, in the video, in the course, I give this as a good example of a homepage hero that we all know and love, obviously, that the digital trade school for slashies looking to stack their creative skills alongside a good vibes community. That is a really good subheadline. They don't really have a headline. They just have their word mark. And then they have this little funny micro copy that's just expressing their sense of humor and quirkiness, but it's not this, but there isn't really a headline here. And that's cool too. It's just saying, I love creatives. Okay, what is I love creatives? Here's what it is. The subheadline explains what it is. So yeah, I think this just really clearly tells you what it is and what it does and what the benefits are. So another good example. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes. I never know when I'm like raising my hand. Can I ask something that's kind of like SEO blog driven?
Sure.
With like make it shorter. Are we still playing these games of like 1,000 words is like SEO driven? Or because I find myself just being like keyword filler, keyword filler. Do you have any thoughts on that? 'Cause I'm kind of tired of it.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of prescriptive word counts.
Right.
I am a fan of, for example, there are tools that will teach you kind of here's how many word counts the competitors on the search results are. Sometimes I'll use that as inspiration rather than like, I think that in the SEO world, that advice of like it has to be at least 1,000 words has grown to be a bit prescriptive and not that helpful. I'm always a proponent, and I tell clients this, I will write as many words as it requires to get the central point across. And I'm not trying to fill it with filler because I'm trying to make a buck. Like, and I think they respect that honesty. But yeah, I generally think of that as outdated advice, or just like an SEO idea that used to be more true before algorithms kind of changed. Now, if anything, with blog content, it is a lot harder to like rank for those terms a lot of the time because it's so competitive, and there's been a lot of bad SEO advice given over the years. So does that answer your question, Cassandra?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just am like, I don't know. I feel like I've kind of fallen a trap of I do a lot of that. And I'm like, it's really hard for me sometimes to even prescribe the value. But I don't know, I'm also just like, well, it's experience, it's this, it's that. But that helps. I'm glad to kind of walk away from this 1,000 word count because it takes a lot of time.
It takes a lot of time. It also doesn't work for like product pages or like other types of content beyond blogs. I mean, a lot of the time you're going to have enough to say in a blog that is 1,000 words or more, but yeah, there's just like there is a time and place for really concise copy. That's I think a page that's well indexed and the content is well organized, and you have 250 words of copy is just as valuable as like an 1,000+ word page. Yeah, so there are other factors that go into that, but I wouldn't sweat that old rule.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's evolving all the time, which
It
as
really
the internet's constantly evolving, and yeah.
Yeah,
Super-
if anything, I think your like subheadlines and your header structure is like the most important thing on a page. Yeah, but and it's fun to have fun with it. Like I think we see this all the time where people are like not necessarily following those old best practices, but they have really cool content.
Yeah.
So when in doubt, just go based on your own like your editorial taste and your gut.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it's like it is like the value of like how you're making your customer feel and making them want to come back, and like testing how things perform. Like you can just things can surprise you where maybe the thing that on paper like it should be the more effective strategy, it's actually just not working, and then the unexpected things will work. That's happened as in my work as a copywriter quite a few times, even with like email subject lines that I wrote that the team would be like, that email, that one subject line you wrote performed better than any other we've ever had. And I'm like, what? I was just messing around, like you don't know, you can't really predict these things sometimes. Same with like social media posts, social media managers who are out there like doing 20, rounds of revision on a single Instagram post. And they're like, it didn't even get any likes. It's like, you just don't know sometimes. And you just continue to test and learn with your copy depending on the platform that you're on, and you have to kind of go back and update things and iterate on things. And yeah, it's interesting. Any other questions?
I had a quick like random question.
Sure.
Hypothetically, like if you were helping a small business come up with a brand name, like would you start with like what they already have and like the world building they're trying to go with? Like what I just had like just like generally, if that makes sense.
Like, what's the approach for trying to come up with a brand name?
Yeah.
That could be a whole other workshop. That's kind of a big, but different people have different processes for it. Sometimes, like what we did at Red Antler was kind of like crowdsourcing from like the entire agency, basically. Like everyone just pitch in whatever things come to mind, and then they would just go like into a spreadsheet, and then we would just go through all the ideas to like narrow it down to the best ones that seem like they're going in kind of the right direction. What I did for my own brand that I'm working on right now is I just started researching kind of free association style, like using things like relatedwords.org, like that website, and other like, Power Thesaurus type of websites, like things that kind of show you, like you can type a word that comes to mind and just look at all of the potential like related words to that thing, and like just going down a rabbit hole. Or like even just reading Wikipedia articles related to the topic, and then just like trying to find a word that sticks out to me, like any kind of just reading and research until I see like, oh, that's a cool word. That's a cool word. And then riffing on, like collecting as much as you can that feels connected, and then riffing on it. And then it gets really complicated because you have to, not only is it about creativity and branding, it's also about availability. Like you have to do trademark research. You have to make sure it's not already owned in that same category or industry, because you can't get too attached to a brand name if you can't legally use it, because if they slap you with a cease and desist, you're going to have to change it anyway. So it's like you can't get too like married to one idea until you've like searched the trademark database and stuff, or hired someone to help you with that. So there are people who just do brand naming, like that's their whole job. That's how it can be quite an intricate process. But sometimes you just get lucky. Like with the one that I'm working on, I just like changed the spelling of a word slightly, and it was the .com was available and the trademarks available, and I was like, yes. I did it. But like that, it took weeks of me and my colleagues, like, and friends kind of like pitching in, like, what about this, what about that, and finally like something random just worked. So yeah, I don't know, there still is not really like a clear path to it. It could it's increasingly tricky because there are just so many brands and so many new brands every day, because the internet makes it so easy to start a business now and to create a new website, a brand. So you have to get more and more creative, I think, with naming, and make, use words that are kind of made up or come from a super obscure reference or something, or yeah. Does that kind of help?
Yes, thank you.
I have a hunch of why you asked that. I'm excited to see whatever this hypothetical brand name will become. Does anyone else have any questions?
Well, now I want to know. I want to be in on the secret. Ugh. Well, I'll keep everyone posted on what Bella Hadid's brand actually is in the Discord. Launching on May 2nd. So clearly I'm bought in, since I know the launch date and everything else. But yeah, we're here if you run into any questions in the Discord. Tasha's office hours are on Tuesday. And then I pop in when I can. So yeah, we're here for you guys. If you want to talk about any of the concepts from this deck, or just talk about best practices in general.
Yeah, let us know in the Discord if you have any follow-up questions. But thank you so much for joining and hanging around for some few extra minutes. Oh, thanks, Yasmin. I'm glad you've enjoyed your first workshop. Love it. Oh, and if you've only just joined us, please don't forget to go to the resources in the course portal to watch the previous workshops, because all the recordings will be uploaded in there. Yeah, awesome. Have a great, I guess it's Thursday, so let's just say have a great weekend. Let's just say weekend is coming, and see you in the Discord. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.